It's 5:30, so we'll call to order this meeting for Monday, November 4th. Jordan, would you start us off with a roll call, please?
Please respond by stating present. Councilmember Ronayne.
Present.
Foberg.
Present.
Liebelt.
Present.
Ward.
Present.
Johnson.
Present.
Reinbold.
Present.
Langer.
Present.
Norvstrup.
Present.
Mayor Schoeneman.
Present. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. First order of business will be to approve this week's meeting agenda. I would take a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion Johnson, second Reinbold. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, approval of minutes for last week's meeting, which took place on October 28th. I would take a motion to approve those minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, Councilwoman Liebelt, second Councilman Ward. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We've got 3 items of our consent calendar as well as a official city proclamation. So I'm going to start with that proclamation since we've got some folks from that organization. Whereas the annual sale of Buddy Poppies by the veterans of foreign wars of the United States has been officially recognized and endorsed by governmental leaders since 1922, whereas the VFW Buddy Poppies are assembled by disabled veterans, and the proceeds of this worthy fundraising campaign are exclusively for the benefit of disabled and needy veterans and the widows and orphans of deceased veterans. And whereas the basic purpose of the annual sale of Buddy Poppies by the veterans of foreign wars is eloquently reflected in the desire to honor the dead by helping the living. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Travis Schoeneman, Mayor of the City of Aberdeen, do urge citizens of the community to recognize the merits of this cause by contributing to its support through the purchase of Buddy Poppies from November 5th through the 11th for the distribution of these symbols of appreciation for the sacrifices of our honored dead. I urge all patriotic citizens to wear a Buddy Poppy as mute evidence of our gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedoms which we continue to enjoy as American citizens. So that'll be this week, November 5th through the 11th. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, my name is Jeff Harms. I'm with VFWCC Curl Post 17. We're going to be at Kessler's and we're going to be at Runnings. And I brought some poppies to distribute. If you want to donate, just go to Kessler's or whatever, but I'll just give you some right now.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you take a donation?
Just give it.
Okay. Sounds
Oh,
good.
I'll stick it in your pocket.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a beer afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. Ready to pass that along. Chief Wag, would I be able to bother you to snap a picture of him with that proclamation when maybe on his way out, since we didn't organize that ahead of time? I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. Next, we've got our consent calendar, 3 items of routine city business, a retail liquor license, hearing dates for another malt beverage, as well as a lottery notice for the 4J Foundation. We'll take a motion to approve these 3 items of city business.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion Reinbold, second Ronayne. Anyone from the council have anything on any of these?
Mr.
Miss-
Mayor,
Go ahead, David.
I just want to let the council know that I'm going to abstain on C.
All right. Sounds good.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I got a few emails asking about lottery notices just in general.
All right.
And just what the parameters are for lotteries, and it just seems like there's one every city council meeting.
Ha,
So folks,
there's
more people that watch city council than I realize, and some people were asking about it.
It's thrilling stuff. I get a chance to watch it while I'm on the treadmill in the gym. I will say that there are state regulations that have to be followed, which would involve the total dollar amount as well as the charitable organization that the efforts support. We've got a form that you can fill out in Jordan's office, and then they just basically come here for approval. Jordan, is there anything extra to know about those lottery notices? Generally, you'll see them for religious affiliated organizations or nonprofits like the Shriners and that sort of a thing. Jordan, anything to add?
I believe we have an addendum to our application as well that might answer some questions, but Ron may have additional information to share as well.
So I can just maybe back it off a little bit to talk about generally. The city isn't really too involved in the gambling. What is a gamble? What we have is a very somewhat of a passive activity, which is simply to place on file these notices when there's a lottery that falls within the statute. There's a statute that clearly identifies what groups are allowed to make these notices for raffles, bingos, lotteries, things like that. If there is, and I've been doing this 10 years now, if the council were to ever to object to one of these notices, then there is a resolution that would need to be approved. But other than that, I know that the finance office doesn't get into the details on these that come in. They simply are provided to us as a 30-day notice. When the person under penalty of perjury says that they are a qualifying organization, we accept that. And we do handle a lot of these. You'll notice there are a lot of these notices. It seems like every meeting we are dealing with one or two of these notices. And it's just something that I know the community uses. There's a lot of people that don't quite understand that before they can do the lottery, they do have to at least give the city 30 days notice of that event. And so that's what these forms are. And they do just track a single statute that talks about approving these lottery notices.
Right, so the money must be given to the nonprofit, and these are the things, like Rod had mentioned, bingo events, Chase the Ace, that sort of thing. Anything else that I'm forgetting about?
No, and honestly, I don't pay attention to these as they come across, but yeah.
Thank you.
I do have one more question about that. Just on section 3, same kind of note. I just was noticing it says 4J Foundation for a cause later to be determined. Is that common that they don't have someone in mind when they do this application for the lottery, or is this kind of standard to pick a cause later?
Well, the funds just have to go to a nonprofit. So
Okay.
I don't know that they necessarily even always fill that part out, what the funds necessarily go towards.
There is, that section 3 does identify, what are you using? What is the purpose of this? That is not really a requirement of the statute. Statute just wants to know that it's not benefiting an individual.
Sure.
That's an organizational effort on behalf of the organization. So in this instance, where 4J Foundation says that cause will be determined, I think something to that effect, that's perfectly appropriate. I mean, there's nothing that sets that outside of the restrictions of the law.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on the consent calendar items? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Not a single item of old business here tonight, so we'll skip right along to our new business, where our first order of business will be to reappoint Bob Babcock to the Board of Zoning Adjustments for an additional 3-year term. This will begin next week, November 14th. Bob has been serving on that board and chairing that board for a period of time, and I think that seems to enjoy it. He seems to know that industry inside and out with his role over at Helms and Associates, so I would say he'd be a good fit to continue to represent us in that group. So I would take a motion to approve the reappointment to Bob.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Ward, second from Councilman Reinbold. Anything before we take a vote? sometimes it's hard to find people willing to do those when they meet as frequently as those guys do. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we've got a possible approval to request to declare surplus real property, to direct the disposal of such real property according to state law, and appoint a board of lay appraisers for the possible land exchange. This is something that we've gotten a little bit more familiar with here in the last couple of months. Ron, anything to add to that description?
Nope, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure that the council understands there are two parts to this. First of all, we're asking that the council declare as surplus these lots that are located, I provided a map where they are.
Just north of the levee, right?
Yeah, just north of the levee, north of Fairgrounds Road. But the second part is, there's a process by which we can do this. One is to have a fee appraisal done by a licensed appraiser, and that costs money, and that's perfectly fine. There is also this other option to appoint a board of appointed lay appraisers, and I had put in 3 names. I haven't honestly talked to anybody to do that on my side, hoping that maybe among the council we could come up with 3. But I do want the council to understand that we've got the first part of this and then the second part that we'll need to handle.
All right, Robin?
This land was purchased by the city back in 1997 specifically because we had placed a temporary levee on it. Okay, we did not need it, but we had encroached on somebody's land, so we ended up purchasing it for a nominal fee. But we have not had any reason for it, first of all, and second of all, there aren't any utilities to it right now, which makes it really unusable for us, or to be able to resell. So the reason for the surplus is it really doesn't do us any, has any value other than we mow it, so.
That tiny little red square there?
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is an appropriate time too to add, this was prompted by a request from Happy. Darren Beckwith is here for Happy, if you had any questions, but what we're looking at is potentially an exchange of property. This is again the first part where we surplus that. Look to see if an exchange is something that the council would be interested in. That's why the appraisal process is being set up. But as I made clear in the action request, you've got this this piece that the city has, which is just under a 1 acre, proposed to possibly be exchanged by a nearly 7 acre parcel that Happy has up in the its subdivision, basically just straight north and a little west of where this property is. So.
All right, so the first part of this would be to the request to declare this surplus real property. How is the council feeling about that?
Can I ask another question, or a
Please do.
question? So isn't it in here somewhere that there's supposed to be a trail to help students get from, is that Holgate? Up into, am I in the right place?
This is northeast of Holgate, yep.
Yeah. Up into that neighborhood there where that road was 55 and now I think we got it down to 35, right? Am I in the right
Along
place?
Dakota Street?
Yeah.
We are looking at putting in a trail there.
I thought we were talking about the trail going about where this surplus property is, or no? Where
And
on?
it would be going up what I think is listed as Harrison right now.
It's not on Main Street.
Oh, it's so far closer to the existing apartment buildings, not this far east. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
But where's the levee?
The levee is directly north of this piece.
So what is that line that is to the east of the surplus property that's running along that
That
road?
is literally the levee, right?
Right, yeah.
People use it as a bit of a walking trail.
Yeah, so it's not farther north, it's
It's south, that was my misspeak.
to the east of the red square. What is that line?
That line is the levee.
Yeah. So what's gonna happen on this red square? What's the intent?
Happy will presumably develop it into lots and sell them for housing.
And it's 1 acre?
Correct, and Happy, Darren, if he, depending on how much he wants to disclose here, but I understand that Happy owns some of those lots straight west of these 2 lots,
Okay.
and could now develop that, and also look at, work and constructing 25th Avenue as it connects to 24th Avenue.
Does the city own any other land right around here?
Actually, straight north of that, that lot that I've got marked off in yellow, the city does own that just straight north of that on the
East?
east side, and then on that parcel straight north and to the west, that's JNN Development, Neil Bellica. And for those of you who know Neil Bellica, he very kindly quitclaimed his interest in that little piece of vacated right-of-way
25th Avenue.
on 25th Avenue, just so Happy could work this deal.
Darren, that's the purpose, is to make a couple of housing lots out of this?
Correct.
We appreciate the partnership that we've had with Happy over the years. I think that's probably going to be about the best case scenario for those, that territory. Any other questions?
Are you looking for a motion?
Yep.
I would move to adopt resolution number 241101R.
Second.
I've got a motion from Councilman Ronayne and a second from Councilwoman Faubourg. If there's no further questions, Jordan, would you give us a roll call on that?
Councilmember Ronayne,
Aye.
Faubourg,
Aye.
Liebelt,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Norpstrup,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion carries. So then, the second part of that will be a land exchange. That'll be something that we just explore at another date once we've gotten everything in order for that to happen.
Correct. I thought it would be appropriate to go ahead and look at the appraisals and see what we have, and then the council would be able to make a more informed decision on whether it wanted to go forward with an exchange.
So would you remind us, Ron, of the 3 names that we had last time for that lay board of appraisers?
I had a wild and woolly group consisting of Carl Alberts, Clarence Feldheim, and Craig Mickelson.
Does anyone in the council have any recommendations for people that would be appropriate to serve in that capacity and would be potentially willing?
Those guys are really good and they were free.
Yeah.
I would move that we appoint the 3 of them who's we may have to read again.
So that's fine. We can go ahead and I will ask them, and if for one reason or another they, one or all of them choose not to, I'll just come back to the council.
Sure.
I'll second that.
Okay. Sounds good. And we don't really need a motion on that. You could just take that direction and.
No,
run
because
with it.
we're appointing them, we should have a motion and
Okay.
second and prove that.
Sounds good. So we've got a motion from Councilman Ronayne and a second from Councilman Johnson, and the order of this would be to appoint Carl, Clarence, and Craig
Craig.
to that appraisers group. So I would take, we got our motion, got our second. All in favor of those 3 gentlemen serving in that capacity, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
1 nay, be it recorded. Councilwoman Faubourg. I didn't hear anything from Tiffany, so I'll assume that she was in the affirmative. Motion does pass. Next, we've got a possible approval of an agreement to close out our airport projects and to resolve disputes with a contractor. Ron, this has been an issue near and dear to your heart for some time. Would you walk us through what this agreement looks like in terms of dollars and cents?
I will, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to outline this very, very generally, and if the council does decide that they want to discuss any details of this, I would request that we go into executive session to discuss the details, but the overview is that Sharp Enterprises, who is a contractor at the Aberdeen Regional Airport on 2 projects, both the taxiway geometry project and apron reconstruction phase 1 projects, did, following those projects, threaten litigation regarding compliance with contract specifications and the closeout of the projects. The city and Sharp mediated a full and complete settlement of those legal disputes. And those, that mediation would authorize the closeout of those two projects and issuance of final payments on those two projects. And I believe you will be seeing that would come through the airport board through the formal or typical recommendation process. And then also an additional payment of $59,050 to Sharp. The attorneys have worked out a formal written agreement, and we would ask that the council approve both the outline here and the written agreement and authorize the city manager to execute that agreement. At that point, then, once we have a signed and fully executed agreement, then it will be a public record and we can discuss that.
I'll move to approve the agreement and the additional payment.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson, and a second from Councilman Ward. Anyone on the council have any questions broadly about this? I guess if we're gonna be discussing details, we have to do it in executive session. All right, Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Norvstrup,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
excuse me, Ward,
Aye.
Liebelt,
Aye.
Foberg,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion carries. Next, possible approval of a bid recommendation for our water reclamation facility, Phase 1. Robin, what can you tell us about that bid that we'd received for that work?
Well, the couple points that I thought were pertinent to this. We received the bid. We were hoping for more bids. We ended up with one bid. One bidder did pull out last minute. But the fact that there were two in the hopper did, I think, help bring things down a little bit. We remember the $120 million bid that we had not too many months ago on the same project, so this did bring things down a little bit, but it was more on the approach, possibly, and we changed some equipment, if I remember right, and these guys will get into some of those specific details. But really what we're doing is we're phasing it now, so that a lot of your prices aren't going to go down. It's just that we're changing the phasing or staging of how you do your cost allocation. This project is over 40 years old. That's something that and we're talking 40-year-old technology, and you know what a 40-year-old computer would do for you right now. There have been updates to the system. We did do fairly major renovation and update for about $12 million, 2005, 2007, somewhere in there. So you're talking getting close to 20 years again on the stuff that we spent that $12 million on originally. The plant was originally designed for residential only and not for industrial type usage, and so the fact that we have changed what we're bringing in. Right now, what we do is we limit what people can bring into our plant. So they have to pre-treat, and that's not a bad thing. But we're at the point where we can't accept any more waste. So the option to grow the community is pretty much limited now. And probably the one thing that you all are very aware of is there's over $20 million worth of grant money that's going to be used to offset this project cost. And if we don't act quickly enough, that 20 million's gone, and then we're going to be spending that additional 20 plus million. I think it was 23.2, somewhere around there. So those are the things that I think are key takeaways. Nobody is thrilled with the type of cost we're talking about, but I think it's important to understand kind of where we started, and now I'd like Stu and Amanda to kind of go into what it is that the ad alternates and what we're going to get through the base bid, and then what we're going to get through the ad alternates.
So the base bid, and maybe Amanda, you want to
Sure.
kind of.
The base bid covers the hydraulic capacity flow of the plant. It would leave off the pre-treatment building. I can come back to that, and that is bid alternate A. The base bid expansion Robin was talking about in 2005, 2009 was a large expansion to the aeration system, which is the biological treatment of the process of the plant that cleans the wastewater. So as you know, it's dated, and the way the plant was built when that aeration system was expanded out, now we are hydraulically locked, and a large portion of the base bid goes to redesigning the flow, piping, and everything. With base bid, we will get a large expansion in capacity and aeration. With capacity, we also need to expand out our final clarifier. We'll do some rehab on both primary and final clarification drives. Mechanisms were replaced back in 2005. The actual clarifiers themselves are original. Those stay, the domes, everything stays, and we're just going to rehab a small portion of them. We will expand out, and the way we hydraulically will flow, like I said, a lot of the current piping needs replaced, and it will just make a cleaner line for future expansion, because we are also looking at needing to expand in 10 years. The state will implement total phosphorus and total nitrogen limits on our removal. So after we expand out our aeration, we will also have to expand out treatment. And with that, we will add currently on the base bid, we will add an additional final clarifier and UV disinfection. There's a large amount of demo that comes along with this plant of old equipment and buildings that are no longer useful to the plant. We have a large structure in the middle of the site that is a biofiltration system that does not go with how treatment and wastewater works today. So that is a large cost to take down that huge structure. So base bid expands out capacity. A lot of it will be underground piping. You will get an aeration system. You will get a final clarifier, and you will get UV disinfection. And with that, another building that kind of ties the plant together. The bid alternative A is for the pre-treatment building. The pre-treatment building is essential into removing all the inorganics that come with wastewater. Everything you flush down in your toilet that you're not supposed to, we get, and we have to screen it somehow. The screening technology is dated. I should start off with lifting the water. We have to lift the water 45 feet into the pre-treatment building. Those screw pumps that lift the water are 20 years old. So everything that goes with the screw pumps, the drives, the grouting, all of it, it's dated and it needs replaced. So we have to lift the water up into the plant in order to treat it. So the whole pre-treatment building, which is bid alternative A, is to screen everything that comes down the drain that's not supposed to. The grit, the gravels, the flushable wipes, and everything like that. Currently, we do have screening. It's a step screen. Every time it steps, everything slips through because it only screens one way. The new technology that we are going to put in is a perforated plate screening that will screen vertically and horizontally. Our grit chambers are very dated. It's an aeration coarse vowel system that lifts organic waste and allows your grit, gravel, everything else to settle. We intend to put in a vortex grit, which will get the finest and the best technology that there is out there for grit removal. There's infrastructure problems within the city underneath pipes. Everything is aged, and that will really take care of a lot of problems. As an operator of the plant for 10 years, that grit goes somewhere, and that grit ends up at the end of the plant in the digesters. So we either pay to remove the grit up front, or we pay to remove the grit on the back end through the dewatering operation, polymer costs, tipping fees at the landfill, all of that. So with the pre-treatment building, it really is the bang for the buck for what we will get out of the entire process. You'll get screening of all the flushables, you'll lift the water, the grit removal, what comes along with grit removal, fats, oils, and grease removal, the screening of that'll all be added in there. And then, of course, we'll have new metering equipment and everything. So currently, when we are over peak capacity and have to discharge to our EQ system, we don't have any way of tabulating what comes back to us. We don't have a meter on that. We'll add metering to that. So it's a huge project. Wastewater is a very corrosive environment. And like Robin said, you know, the structures are 40 years old and the equipment is 20 plus years old. So it's a big number, but it's a necessity. I mean, we all want to go home and flush our toilet and take showers and do laundry, and the process is aged, very aged.
Thank you for that information. So just briefly walk us through phase 2 of this project, because phase 1 is what we're talking about. That is
Correct.
70 some million or 80 some million, depending on the what we're going to choose. But then the rest of it would have gotten us to 120 some million with that first bid. What does that solids waste process look
So
like?
the solids handling would have been an additional primary clarifier. We are at max capacity for hydraulic. We do have space currently, but we'll need to add for the solids handling. So that is why we chose to split solids handling off into phase 2. So with that, a primary digester would come in. We do have the new dewatering project that came in 21. That process was squeezed into the small garage that we have out there. The intentions were to pick up that process and build a new structure for it and put it in an appropriate size building so we can start hauling our own sludge and reducing A1 sanitation fees and tipping fees like that. We would also, we currently have a dissolved air flotation system that processes waterlogged sludge that comes across the road. We would change that system out to a new dewatering system, and piping and everything that comes with all of the expansion of your new digester and dewatering equipment. As well as we do run a boiler off of diesel and recoup the biodiesel gas or biogas that we make in the methanator. So new equipment would come in there as well for heating. You have to keep your digesters heated for the anaerobic process to work.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. And then did you tell us about bid alternate B?
So bid alternate B with HVAC and engineering, it was split off. We would just have.
So bid alternate B would be, excuse me, would be used if we chose not to elect bid alternate A. Those would be the improvements that have to be made to meet code for ventilation and.
Correct.
So it's kind of an either or thing. If we take A, we don't need B, and vice versa.
And A is the new facility with the equipment inside.
With
the pretreatment.
Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting process, and I welcome everybody out to come see it and see what you would get for the dollar. Can I go?
Yeah. And then the one last question I've got, Amanda, $10.1 million saved? Walk us through what is Banner talking
$10.1 million according to how opinion of cost came in on the last bid, and what we received back from the original bidder to now. We're saying it's about $10.1 million less than the original bid when we're looking at
this portion
of the project.
Thank you very much for that clarification. And Jordan, let's talk a little bit about rates. We had talked about a rate increase for wastewater sewer treatment, and where would that have gotten us? The rate increase that we had talked about a couple of weeks ago.
So the $14.35 surcharge related to Clean Water 4 will pay for the $32 million as part of that issuance. We're left with a gap of approximately $37 to $40 million to fund the project as presented. An SRF on that would be in addition to any SRFs that we've discussed today. We'd go through the same process of applying for it through the State Water Board, the same resolution of support from the council through NECOG, and initial estimates for that as additional SRF are approximately $22 to $24 per month in addition to any existing SRF.
In addition to the 14.
Correct.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate that information. We do have a session where we'll be talking about the impact of rates and some possibilities that we'll have in the upcoming, is that next week? 2 weeks? 2 weeks.
18th.
18th, yeah.
Would anybody be interested in making a motion to approve this, this agreement? Well, there had been some talk about maybe tabling this discussion to dovetail in with that rate discussion that we'll be having.
I would move to postpone consideration of this for 2 weeks.
I'd second that.
We've got a motion to table the issue for 2 weeks to discuss it alongside of the rate discussion that we will be having with NECOG in 2 weeks. Motion, Ronayne, second. Reinbold, anyone have anything?
Mr. Mayor,
All right, go ahead.
how long is
Councilwoman.
this bid good for?
30.
30
Yeah.
days, yes.
Since when?
From the bid date, which was October 29th. So we should be able to easily fit within that 30-day window.
We've got a motion and a second to table the discussion for a period of 2 weeks for that special meeting that we will be having. Amanda, I want to thank you for coming and
Thank
sharing
you,
your
Mayor.
knowledge on this topic. You obviously understand this thing through and through. It's helpful to have your perspective.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I mean, what's the alternative? I'm serious, like I'm not being facetious. What's
The alternative would be to accept the base bid and not alternative A, but then you are not treating everything that comes through the plant, and we ruin what we put in on the base bid.
And the other alternative is to not do anything and then just have everything fall apart slowly over time.
Correctly, and lose your 23 million federal grant money.
And the 23 million federal grant money, you have to start construction by when, or accept a bid by what date?
December 31st, signed.
We have to have a contract signed
So-
by the 31st of.
Are we allowed to discuss the motion to table, or we just have to vote on a motion to table?
No, we can
Deserves an
definitely
immediate
discuss it. We haven't taken the vote.
Thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just one comment. I want to thank Amanda for presenting this, and I had the opportunity to go and tour the facility a few months ago, and granted, I know nothing about, she's an expert in this with all the chemistry that's going on. It is really fascinating, but it is a very aged facility. There are some issues that need to be addressed, so I appreciate your guys' recommendation, all your hard work on this, and yeah, we definitely need to invest, into our community. And so I do agree that, doing an investment is wise. I also agree that tabling it, coming back while we're doing that discussion is a wise decision. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ward. Councilwoman Fulberg, any points to make before we take a vote on the table?
I honestly think a motion to table requires an immediate vote based on my memory from Student Congress.
Oh,
Yeah, it's usually not debatable.
Yeah.
sounds good.
I was trying to get away with something, but I called myself out.
Well, how about, Councilman Ronayne, would you make a motion to table?
I believe I already made the motion.
But then we had debate, which does
I'm
that
sorry?
nullify the motion if we?
No, there wasn't a debate.
There's no
Okay.
debate.
We just-
Sounds good. We've got our motion, we've got our second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Thank you all.
Motion carries with one nay vote. Councilwoman Fulberg, thank you for joining us, Amanda. Appreciate that.
I was kicking it down
Next, we've got a possible pay request number 3, change order number 2 for our mill and overlay project to Dami Construction. The bill is $680,904.74. The change order is a $331,740.65. Stu, this was our Main Street project. What can you tell us about this payment and change order?
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, that change order is a whopper, and it's due to really three main factors. Well, one main factor that leads to three things. Pretty much all the information that we had for the water main and stuff was really incomplete on this job, and we really struggled with what was actually in the ground as opposed to what we thought was in the ground. So we ended up having to do a lot of extra work that we did not anticipate. There was about $75,000 in additional water main pipe and appurtenances, and all of this extra work led to bigger trenches, more trenches, and that meant increases in our concrete repairs. That was a significant part of it, about $135,000. And then, of course, to go along with that, we had a pretty significant overrun on the asphalt itself. Our old plans for this, and this is a project that I designed in 2002, indicated that we had about 2 inches of asphalt in this area when we really had about 4 inches. So we milled 2 inches off, and then for every trench that we had, and we wanted trying to keep our street sections homogeneous, so we would have to bring back 2 inches of asphalt in all of those trenches to get that up to the level it needed to be, and then put the 2 inches of asphalt on top of that we paved. So there was some significant cost overruns on this, but I don't know how we would have avoided doing this, other than maybe we would have looked at breaking this up into 2 different projects. And obviously, had we known now what we knew, or then what we know now, I think we would have looked at doing that. So, but we would recommend paying Dami Construction for the amount that's listed here.
Thank you, Stu.
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Ronayne and a second from Councilman Johnson. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just gonna ask the question I know I'm gonna get asked tomorrow. How does this happen? Like, how do we underestimate, or whatever the right word is, this much?
We're operating under some assumptions based on the information that we have, and this is an area of town that is one of the older areas of town, and records are very incomplete. We had curb stops that we thought went to a particular building that we found did not go to a building. We had curb stops that we didn't think went to a building that did, which did cause us a little bit of a problem. And it just seemed like our records were just not good, and we ended up the concrete street, the original concrete street that's under this, I'm not sure how old it is, but that pavement is basically, it's not even really concrete anymore. So I think in retrospect, I think we probably should have changed how we did this. Like I said, we're basing this on the information that we have at the time, and it was incomplete.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Ironically, this isn't even the worst change order percentage you've ever had. We had one up on First Avenue North where we were doing a transmission line that was nearly 50% change order by the time we got done, just based on the fact that the records what we thought we had to deal with was not what we ended up actually dealing with in the field. So it does happen, it's unfortunate, but they do with that information. The only way to know better is to dig the street up ahead of time and then design it. And, you know, that's not feasible, so.
I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
The other concern that a lot of the local residents and businesses had brought to the table was kind of the extreme period of inactivity that would take place between movement on that project. Was that primarily due to the fact that there were unearthing problems and having to figure out solutions or finding subcontractors to handle those, or what was the driver there, would you say?
I can't really speculate on why the contractor had those gaps and when they were there and when they weren't. There was additional work that needed to be done on the project, and despite it all, they still finished it before their actual completion date that was listed in the plans. So while we had intended that the duration of the construction was going to be a lot shorter than it was, they still met the ultimate completion date in the plans.
All right, thank you. Stu, appreciate that. Got our motion, we've got our second. Any other questions from the council? Jordan?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Foberg.
Aye.
Liebelt. Ward.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Norvstrup.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion carries. Next, bills and payroll. Payroll period is from October 20th through November 2nd. Take a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
We've got a motion from Councilman Reinbold and a second from Councilwoman Liebelt. Remember, you can abstain from particular line items if you wish. Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Norvstrup.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Liebelt.
Aye.
Foberg.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion carries. City manager's report. Robin, glad you're here. You've been under the weather.
Been under the weather, been sick most of the last week, and a lot of head cold stuff going on. There's not a period of time, even after hip surgeries, that I spent this time away from the office in a week's period of time. So I do feel much better now, and hopefully am on a permanent mend here. I've been reminded I'm not 40 anymore, so that was a little humbling. But also, I have been selected for jury duty. I think I did tell you that last week. And I have gotten notice that I will be supposed to be reporting on the 12th, and it's potentially a 2-week trial. So we'll play this by ear and see if it gets settled ahead of time, but I may be a little less active in the office for that couple weeks during the month of November. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Robin. If there's nothing else from anyone on the council, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion Norvstrup, second Ronayne. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're adjourned.